I am exhausted, so let's do a video. All right, on today's horribly edited video, I want to talk about a couple of things that I've actually gotten requests for quite a few times. So I want to go through my enclosures and talk about what I use for both lighting and heating. All right, so my preferred way of heating, and just a rundown, I use PVC enclosures for all of mine. I have tropical species across the board, so PVC works really, really nicely for maintaining humidity and all of that jazz. So RHPs, radiant heat panels, are really nice for super easy to install when you have that solid PVC top. So let's take a look in, this is Aries' enclosure. We are still missing a door for him. That should get replaced within the next couple of days. But this is, I'll give you a roof layout. This is RHP. This is a 120 watt, I want to say. So we just have one in here. This enclosure is a 6x2x4. And then we also have an LED light that is currently off, so I'm not blinding everyone. And then he has an Arcadia UV light as well. These are the jungle covers. I believe it's the jungle covers. Whichever one has the lowest percentage of UV is the Arcadia brand that I use for the retics. So that's his layout. All right, a couple of pros that I found with the RHPs is they do a really good job of heating the substrate and creating a nice gradient for the animals, especially in the taller enclosures. So this size 120, I'm gonna double check and make sure it's actually 120 watt. It is 120 watt. So I only have to use one in this enclosure, even though we live in it gets really cold here in the winter and they are in the basement. So it still does a substantial job in this size enclosure, especially since it's bioactive, because all of the organic material will just absorb the heat and maintain it a little bit easier. The other thing I really like about the RHPs is the snakes can't climb on them. So while this surface gets pretty warm, there's no way for a snake to climb and get stuck on it. So you don't have to worry about burns, which if you keep super active species like retics, that is essential. Now, in the bigger enclosures, like Stella's, hi pretty girl, she has a food belly. I actually have two. I have an RHP 120 watt RHP on this side, and then another one on the opposite side, so tucked up over here. She also has Arcadia UV and LED lighting in here. The Arcadia lighting does emit some additional heat, so keep that in mind as you're setting stuff up. I always try and put my UV and LED lighting close to the elevated areas of the enclosure to emulate the natural heat that they would get from lying on a surface in the sunshine, essentially. So that's the other nice tip and trick that I use, is creating different elevated spots, especially if you have a taller enclosure, and it creates a very natural temp gradient for them. Stella approves. Now I do have some smaller enclosures. These are the Toad Ranch 4x2x2, and that is a 6x2x2. I have 120 watt in pretty much anything that's 6 feet long and 2 feet tall or bigger. I will use 120 watts. If it gets exponentially long, like Stella's enclosure, she's a 12 foot enclosure, I'll put 2. But then in the smaller ones, like Ivy's up here, she has a 80 watt in hers. So all of the 4x2s have an 80 watt, and that is ample heat to, give that gradient that you want in a smaller enclosure. And over here on the flip side, these are our divided 4x2x2s. So each little square, so you can see a divider here. This is a 4x2x2 Toad Ranch. So we have a 2x2 space here, and the way we laid out these guys was little 40 watts on each side, so we can individually zone each space as we need to. So that's been working out really, really well. So sorry, there's a mess back there. The thing that I'm not a super big fan about the Arcadia lighting, and none of this is sponsored, by the way. I have an affiliate code to Toad Ranch, but they're not sponsoring the video by any means, and neither is Arcadia. So the one thing that I am not super pleased with regarding the Arcadia lights because I have snakes and because of the way I do the layout on the top, the snakes can actually, if they really want to, climb on the Arcadia bulbs. So this is Centauri's enclosure. She's been in food mode. Hi, babe. So she is a very active girl and she's on paper right now, but she does have a habit of climbing on her Arcadia lights. So she'll literally wrap around the LED or the UV and like hang out there. So she doesn't get burned or anything, like it's not hot enough to burn her. And they do have cage covers for them, which work great. The way that I do my layout in the ceiling, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the cage covers. So I prefer not using them, and sometimes I just don't have space. Hi, do you want to bite the phone? Or you just want to say hi to the phone? You can't, oh, you just want to say hi. Okay, hello. So yeah, that's the one struggle with the Arcadia lights. And then you also do need to change the bulbs every 6 months for the UV to make sure that they are getting what they need. We're currently having a stare down. What are you doing? I know, I opened your door. Do you want to come out? She can't decide. What are you doing? All right, so because of that reason of like the snakes being able to climb on it and the bulbs do get a little, they run a little bit hot for Arcadia. So for the baby enclosures, we switched it up a little. And again, this is not sponsored by anyone. So for the baby setups, we actually got the VivTech UVs. I really like these. They like, an animal can like literally like curl up around this. And like this surface gets a little hot, but it's a way smaller surface area for one. Like the hardware to hang it is very compact and small. You can swivel it in different areas, like different positions. So you can point the UV where you want. This UV is pointed on our little shelf to emulate sunshine for the little ones that are gonna be living in here. So far we really like the UVs from VivTech. So do the plants. This plant was about half this size like 2 days ago. I'm not joking. So, and the other nice thing about the VivTech is you don't need to change out the bulbs nearly as often. So yeah, that's a huge plus for me. And then we just got these like cheapo LED lights off of Amazon. These don't really get hot either, and they're really streamlined, which is nice because they can't like grip and hang onto them and climb on them. So definitely prefer this setup versus Arcadia. Arcadia does do some really cool innovative stuff. Like they have the like the sunrise sunset feature now in some of their bulbs. So I mean, I'm definitely down for experimenting and trying things out. This is just right now, like VivTech is our preferred. We're gonna switch everybody else over to VivTech as well. But yeah, I mean, use what works for you. Those are the kind of the pros and cons that I've found with the lighting fixtures that I have tried over the last few years. I think that's about it. Hi. He's hanging out. It's not rocket science. The hard thing about heating and lighting is you have a ton of different options that are completely valid and work really, really well. So this is what I found works for me. This is the layout that I find works for me. So yeah, there you go. A little bit of lighting and heating info. One last thing is, yes, we do offer our snakes UV lighting and LED. They get a like sunrise, sunset light cycle. It's still not proven that snakes need UV, but I have noticed like different behavioral things pop up when I utilize UV with like my retics and my boas. And again, it's a very limited range of species that I'm using UV with. So my thought process is if I can offer it, then, you know, I do. And it's definitely like the UV isn't going to hurt them. As long as it's the right, like make sure you're getting quality UV lighting that has been tested and all of that jazz. But the snakes seem to like it. They bask under it all of the time. So I do recommend it if you can offer it. All right, that's it. Like and subscribe. That really helps out this channel. It supports us a ton. I have some links below if you want to check those out, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye. One last important thing that I forgot to mention is make sure that you're always using thermostats. So we have the Vivarium electronic thermostats, and we also use Herpstats. So we have the baby enclosures because there's so many stacked. We have the Herpstat 6. They have like a lot of different like ranges of this, but this is a Herpstat 6, so you can do 6 different zones on it. So yeah, just whatever you do, make sure that your heating supply has a thermostat because super important.